Some of the Xavier players, they play the next game. They're coming out and watching the end of this one, doing a little scouting.
It's a 10-point ball game with 8 minutes remaining. 49-39, St. Louis. We're coming back to the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis right after this.
At Old National Bank, the buck stops with Dan Opel.
Here at University Square, we know you're always on the go. Getting to the bank's a cinch when you get a full-service branch close by. You deserve it.
The buck stops with John Massey.
At Eastside, we take the time to get to know you. A neighborly approach means you get the most from your neighborhood bank, including sound advice from people you know.
Old National, Old National.
It made sense, pre-planning our final arrangements to control the cost and guard against untimely hardship.
Funeral expense is one of the most costly a family must face. Today at Alexander, the cost is easily controlled by making arrangements long before they're needed. To pre-plan arrangements, call Alexander, Evansville's pre-planning center. It's the simplest way of caring, and it's free.
True Value Hardware, it's more than a name.
What's lurking up on those top shelves? Investigate with a 2-foot wood step stool from Rich Ladder, just $5. It's built to hold up when you need it and fold up when you don't. And it's just $5 as the February hardware value of the month. Look for the banner at most True Value hardware stores and home centers.
True Value.
Despite the fact that the Evansville Aces trail by 10 points, Dean, with 8 minutes to go, you still get that feeling if they could just get in a rhythm, they could still pull this thing out.
Well, putting it bluntly, the Aces have played awful so far. And with 8 minutes to go, they're still within 10 points. You figure if they get it clicking at all, they can be right there.
Monroe Douglas was the high man yesterday with 25 points, but Gray added 18, and Bonner had something like 12 points and 13 rebounds. He is already in double figures in scoring and rebounding again. Bonner, that is, as Douglas does the turnaround, and Brand goes up and gets the rebound. So Larry Brand doing himself well here, the freshman redshirt.
Seems like he's been around for 3 or 4 years. Just a freshman.
Hafner for 3. All right, Scott Hafner. And the Aces are back within 7 as we go under the 7-minute mark. And a lot of Aces fans are on their feet.
7 straight points by the Aces, and they've pulled within 7.
But Anthony Gray, or Roland Gray, answers. 51-42, as you see. Hill flares it across. Simmons for 3. Marty almost needs a little more time to get set.
I think actually the shot might have been there by Hafner. He could have swung it around a little bit. It hurts when Marty takes the shot from out because that takes away one of your rebounders.
Your leading rebounder at that.
Evansville rebounding as a team has 24 rebounds with Bonner and Gray. They have 21, so those two are almost equaling the number of the Aces.
Douglas from the other side. Monroe Douglas. With Douglas and Bonner, you have 2 former Mr. Basketballs in the state of Missouri, a year apart. Bonner was last year's, Douglas was 2 years ago.
The Billikens have answered the charge.
They certainly have. 53-42, and now it's down to under 5.5 minutes.
Scott Hafner yells at Curtis Jackson, we've got to start moving.
Hafner for three. Scott Hafner averaging 17 points a game in MCC play, 18 on the year. Has made 2 3-pointers in the last few moments.
Starting to heat up.
And an offensive foul on Roland Gray. Good defensive effort by Marty Simmons. And that's Gray's 3rd personal.
Big trip up the floor for the Aces this time. They've got it to 8. Take another look. The defensive play. Simmons leans over. Now you say Marty's moving in that position, but what the official called was a push-off on Gray. He got that forearm out there. If he'd have kept that forearm tucked in there, it would have been a foul on Marty for blocking. Hafner now has hit his last 2 3-pointers after going 0 for 4.
He couldn't get it, and a foul on Roeder. Hafner, of course, put on a show at Kiel Auditorium. He was the only bright spot. December 30th, he had 28 points. He had them oohing and ahhing.
He had 7,000 opposing fans oohing and ahhing at his display. This time, he has Jimmy Roeder picking up the foul. And Larry Brand goes out after doing a magnificent job. Now you say, why do you take a kid out in this situation? Larry's not used to playing very much at one point. A stretch at a time here, 4 and 5 minutes. I think you might see Larry Brand before this game's over with.
Scott Hafner with his first offering. Again, you're watching the number 2 leading free throw shooter in America, 91%. That was his 74th and now 75th free throw made for the year. Aces back within 6, 4:40 to go. Hang on, 53-47. And the Evansville contingent is on their feet, and they're making a lot of racket. They are also situated behind the St. Louis team. But Monroe Douglas, as he has done on more than one occasion in this contest, answers with a strong move. Hill goes down. Haddock goes up. Kevin Haddock with his first basket.
Haddock came in to play the defense on Gray inside. Watch that, folks, down at the bottom of your screen. It'll be Kevin Haddock, the freshman, on Gray, and that'll be a good matchup.
Gray. Simmons gets it to Hafner, and Simmons gets it back. 3:45 remaining. Aces can cut it to 4, maybe 3. There's been some outstanding comebacks. Simmons goes around and gets the foul from Bonner. That brings Reddit Hudson in, as Marty Simmons will go back to the line, and we're going to see it from another angle.
Never say die. Marty Simmons taking it right to the bucket, and he picks up the foul on Bonner, and that's Bonner's second. And Marty will go to the free throw line with a chance to cut the lead in the game to 4. They've trailed by as many as 13, and not so long ago. The biggest lead, actually 14 points at 47-33 with 11:10 to go.
Marty's had 5 games in which he's hit double figures in scoring and rebounding. He may be close to that again tonight. He certainly is into double figures in scoring, but at a very critical time, can't get it to fall, and it remains 55-49. 3:24 remaining. It's been an enormous mountain for UE to climb, and a traveling call on Hudson. And Jim Cruz and the team want to talk it over. The Aces are back in it, down by 6 with 3:18 to go. MCC Tournament Basketball Live continues right after this.
I'm Chad Ibbett for Deaconess Hospital. The people at Deaconess want you to see how much better a hospital can be. Come along. They're listening to your suggestions and improving the ways they care for you. You'll like the changes inside and out. Of course, Deaconess will continue to be leaders in medical technology. Ask your physician about the new Deaconess, or ask for a free brochure. Deaconess, see how much better a hospital can be.
These days you can get everything by pushing a button. Very efficient until it blows a fuse. How about old-fashioned service, a smiling face, a helping hand? At Kenny Kent Chevrolet Volvo Mazda, we do it this way. The customer is always right. Even when he's wrong, he's right. Our good people take the time to give you all you expect. Does it work? Well, people almost never pound on our buttons or kick us in the coin return.
That's where good people do.
Downtown and north at Diamond and Heidelbach.
Obviously much more happy than they were earlier, the ASATs. Dean, we said the bench would be a key. How has it gone comparatively?
And right now, Evansville is doing a good job off the bench. 14 points. St. Louis only getting 7 points off the bench. Of course, we said Larry Brand came in and contributed 2 big buckets. Also, Dawson, Veltra Dawson had 4, along with Hill and Kevin Haddock.
And as we saw, a 7-rebound edge from St. Louis. Shooting percentage. Again, 48-34 as you brought out. That's a little better. That's a lot better than 25%. Hafner brings it across. Aces down by a half dozen, coming down to 3 minutes. Hill almost forces it in. Curtis goes up. Simmons battling it, and it goes off of Marty Simmons.
Curtis has really struggled from the field. He's getting the good shots, and those shots normally fall for Curtis, but he's just having trouble right now.
Again, Chris Bamba, hampered by a bad ankle. Tried to give it a go, but maybe we'll see him again, but he appears to be done for a while. Here come the Billikens. Under 3 minutes, 2:45 remaining. Douglas with a miss, Simmons with a rebound. Again, it's amazing. I'm amazed that Simmons can handle the ball as well as he does. It's like having a cast on. Here's Kevin Haddock. Kevin Haddock out of Columbus, Ohio. Played on a state championship team just a year ago. And the Aces are back within 4. And a crowd here at Market Square is starting to get into it. Down close to 2 minutes, 2:10 to go. Gray, Haddock with some strong defense and a foul on Marty Simmons.
It's been an uphill battle for the Aces, and they are fighting back. And boy, Kevin Haddock with an outstanding block that time.
Here's another one of the future stars of the Aces. Look at Haddock.
Haddock goes up, knocks it away. Now Gray comes down with it. Marty grabs him and picks up his 3rd foul. And the Aces have only committed their 16th foul, so it will be side out of bounds for St. Louis.
Under 2 minutes, 1:58. Evansville trying to advance to the finals of the MCC tournament. St. Louis trying for a record-tying 24th win of the season, which has been a sensational year. The Aces with wins in 8 of their last 9. Timeout. Rich Grauer wants to talk it over. We told you earlier, Jim Cruz had called it. Actually, it was an official's timeout, so the Aces did not lose one.
They've got all of them left, but right now, Rich Grauer doesn't want to take any chances. He's got the 4-point lead, less than 2 minutes. He figures if you take care of the ball and hit your free throws, you can win it from here on out. But hitting the free throws is crucial.
Again, we remind you that we will be carrying the championship game of the MCC tournament. If the Aces prevail, we will have it live Sunday afternoon. But if, as you look in on St. Louis, if the Billikens prevail, we'll carry that game on a tape delay at 3:30.
Take a look at the free throw percentages of the 5 people that are in there. And right now, the guy you'd want to foul is Reddit Hudson at 63%, although Bonner only shoots for the season at 66%. So both of those players, in fact, Bonner has had a little trouble in league play. He's only shooting 62%. Jimmy Roeder only about a 60%er in league play, near 70 for the season. So he may have fallen into that trap as some of the Billikens did in that losing streak, and they just couldn't find the bucket. They won a few games there where they had a real hard time even getting a layup to fall. Boy, the Aces know all about struggling from the field, and they've done that tonight.
we've been watching the two top teams shooting-wise in the conference. Evansville, of course, is well below its 50%, the only team to shoot 50% or better, shooting 51% for the year. They're at 34%. St. Louis is right under its average of 49%. They're shooting 48%. It'll be St. Louis's ball with 1:40 to go, a 4-point St. Louis lead. They led by 14 at one time. Gray doesn't get it. Hill couldn't get it, and that hurts. The ball was almost an air ball.
Good defense that time.
30 seconds on the shot clock.
And Jim Cruz wants the Aces to come out and play the defense. Hafner's got 4 fouls. He's got to be careful. You see the clock tick under a minute.
15 seconds on the shot clock. Douglas will put it up and rebound Simmons. Here they come. 45 seconds down by 4.
The Aces have got to be patient, though. A lot of time.
Jackson off the mark. Curtis obviously very frustrated and commits the foul on Brian Hill.
Curtis was left wide open, and none of the other players were moving. They were all standing around, and St. Louis was playing good defense. Jim Cruz has to be very frustrated.
Here it is again.
And the rebound comes down. And finally, Curtis comes out to contest. He's trying to foul somebody.
That was Hill's first personal as Rich Grauer looks to his staff. Kevin Haddock comes out. Troy Jones, one of the better long-range shooters, comes in. But I think for defensive purposes, we may see Haddock. They like to bring him in and out very, very quickly when they go to the defensive end. So here's Brown. 27 seconds remaining. This guy can live at the free throw line, and he misses. So let's try again. Aces down by 4. Hafner for 3. And again, unable to draw iron. Ted Mimlitz will check in, and Jim Cruz calls a timeout.
Tough chance down the floor that time. Hafner came over, got a good pick, got a good shot off, and boy, you think when he goes up like that, he's going to be pretty close. But not that time. It's to the Aces' tribute, though, how they have struggled back here. They've trailed by 14 with 11 minutes, a little over 11 minutes to go. And over the final 11 minutes now, it was about 11:20. Here's the play. Roeder gets picked by Hill. Hafner goes up and just misses everything.
It has been a tremendous season for these Aces. You know, when you look back, they tie Loyola for the co-championship. Then they become the 4th most improved team in the country among 300 Division I schools with their record of 16-10. They had an 8-game winning streak, which was the longest in 5 years. You've got 2 quality players in Marty Simmons and Scott Hafner, who get very deserved recognition from the conference. And it had to be absolutely Jim Cruz, Coach of the Year. What a job he and his staff have done. Jim very humble in passing out the compliments to his hardworking staff. And again, to the people that are watching this game and to the couple thousand maybe that are here from Evansville, maybe that's a little high, but they again led the way for the 7th straight year in fan support. And now here they are, knocking on the door after it looked like they were all but buried. They're going to have to foul in a hurry. If they can just look out. Bonner, Hill with the foul.
Well, the Aces committed 3 intentional fouls going up the floor, and no call. And finally, Hill hits him with 11 seconds to go. Now, you got to remember, with the 3-point play, this one is not over. Watch Hafner. Simmons, he tries to get a foul. And finally, Brian Hill. Bonner has had a whale of an evening. You see Brian Hill, 13 points for Bonner, 14 rebounds.
67% free throw shooter who misses. So again, UE will theoretically, with 2 possessions, they'll need 6. If he makes it, they'll need at least 1 3-pointer, so it can be done. Bonner misses them both. Simmons in a hurry. Simmons up.
Another air ball.
And a foul on Curtis Jackson.
The Aces really had trouble from that 3-point area. 4 of 14.
That's Jackson's 3rd personal.
Simmons now 2 of 6 from 3-point land. Hafner was just 2 of 7, and Curtis was 0 of 1.
So with 5 seconds remaining, should the Aces lose tonight, and it's becoming more and more apparent the reality is setting in, but it's still possible. There is still 5 seconds of hope. Should they lose, the season is not over. They go to Marquette to play a very good Marquette Warriors at the Mecca on Tuesday night. St. Louis, if they win, will go to the finals on Sunday and meet the winner of the 2nd game tonight between Loyola and Xavier. They had another incredible comeback last night, Xavier and Butler.
Certainly did. Darren Fitzgerald brought them back from the dead. They were 22 down with under 5 minutes to go, and the little guy heated it up from the outside. But a frustrating evening for the University of Evansville, and a happy evening for St. Louis, as it looks like they're going to roll to their 7th straight victory and head into Sunday afternoon's final game against either Xavier or the Loyola Ramblers.
There again is the Billiken, an odd-looking creature, to say the least. St. Louis, the blue and white Billikens. Five seconds remaining. An unusually low-scoring game, don't you think?
Certainly was. You would think the game, most of the other games between these two have been in the 70s, and the 68-50 St. Louis win in St. Louis, and then 78-76 the Aces. Of course, that game, though, was in overtime.
So Roland Gray goes to the line. Here they come again. Hafner from way out. That's it. It is all over. The St. Louis Billikens defeat the Evansville Aces to advance to the finals of the MCC tournament. As you see, Jim Grauer congratulating the Aces. A gallant comeback, but it falls short here with a score of 55-51. Dean, I guess you can go back to the first half. You can't dig a hole as big as the Aces did against a team like this and expect to come back.
I think the Aces got behind, and they tried to get it all back at one time. They tried to get it back with the three-pointers and couldn't quite get it done. They were 4 of 14 on the evening. They got behind early. St. Louis ran out to an early 8-2 lead, and really the Aces never got back into it. It was a couple of streaks, though, by the Aces, and they trailed by 7 at the half and kind of pecked away at them a little bit in the second half before St. Louis opened it up 47-33. Reddit Hudson's free throws with 11-12 to go in the game had St. Louis in front 47-33 and a 14-point lead. But the Aces, over the next about 6.5 minutes, had cut the lead finally to 6 at 47-53 and really went after St. Louis. But then the final stretch, it was just not to be from three-point land as the Aces continued to throw up the air balls. Curtis Jackson threw up one, also Scott Hafner, and then Marty Simmons, and it was just a tough evening for the Aces. I know a lot of the fans will go home disappointed to Evansville that came up to Indianapolis hoping to enjoy a weekend of winning and festivities, but was not to be for the Aces tonight. And the Aces crowd will sit and watch at least maybe a good game here in the second game.
Absolutely. Loyola and Xavier come in. They will be certainly giving it all they have. Two very talented ball clubs who won games yesterday, and they will now play for the right to meet the St. Louis Billikens on Sunday afternoon. Well, again, we congratulate the Evansville Aces, but again, what has been what they hoped would be the longest road trip of the year, it is over, but it's over 2 days premature. They were hoping to extend it. Actually, it would have gone till Wednesday, because they played Tuesday night in Marquette, and they were going to leave from here and go right up to Milwaukee rather than come back to Evansville. But the Aces now, with a 16-11 mark, will return home and prepare for the Warriors at the Mecca Arena on Tuesday night.
It's been a long road trip for them. They left last Friday for Chicago and then went right to Detroit. And then of course down here to practice this week, as you said, at a local high school.
Incidentally, with the win, Rich Grauer now, his record goes to 72-74.
We'll try to get you some point totals.
While Jim Cruz's record, 24-30. The Aces, 16-11. St. Louis, 24-8. Here are some final stats.
Marty Simmons led the way with 15 points. It was Scott Hafner with 12, but Scott really struggled from the field. It was kind of a struggling night for everyone. Curtis Jackson had good shots all evening, but only came up with 6 points. Hill came off the bench, had 4. Haddock had 4. Dawson had 4. And Larry Brand with 4 points. All of those folks coming off the bench. And Chris Bomba had 2 points, sprained his ankle. And something we alluded to right off the top tonight, Dan Gottfried had to have a good game, did not score.
Well, that's the story, a disappointing story from Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. Thanks for watching, everybody. Again, the final score here at Indianapolis, St. Louis 55, Evansville 51. For Dean Webster, this is Mike Blake and all of us at Channel 14. Good night, everybody, from Indy.
Jim, welcome. First of all, now that you've had a couple of weeks to assess it, what's the overall assessment of the 86-87 season?
Well, we really had a funny season, Mike, in terms of a continuity. We started off very well, 5-0. Then we slipped a little bit. Then we got another streak, and we had three-game losing streaks sandwiched in the season and so forth. But we had a 5-game and an 8-game winning streak and some wins sporadically throughout the season. And we are on the verge. I think that we played a lot of good basketball. We had an excellent streak at the end. We won the conference during the regular season. The bait was out there, and that's why we're a little disappointed with how we did at the end of the season to do better. On the other hand, we could have done worse, too. Our season could have gone either way, and I think our kids did an excellent job doing as well as they can and put a good season together.
I know you set some goals. Were there some goals that maybe you didn't achieve, but some that you did that you didn't expect to?
Well, absolutely. Every year at Evansville, starting with this particular team, our goal is to win the conference championship, which we did. Then you get a greater reward by winning the conference champion, obviously. So that's got to be our goal, and then playing in a postseason tournament. So we fell short on a couple of our goals, and we've got to work on that. And we can't stand still where we are now. Just because we're going to be a year older doesn't mean we're going to be a year better. So we've got a lot of work to do from now until next October 15th.
The phones are ringing. Way to go, 426-1414. Incidentally, this guy knows a lot about the NCAA. He knows teams that are in it. You had to be very proud of the way Xavier played. A question that I wanted to ask. Let's say Xavier would have met Indiana tomorrow night. Does Bob Knight call you? Does Pete Gillen call from Xavier and say, hey, Jim, help me out? And ethically, what can or can't you do in a matchup like that?
Well, with conference teams, Mike, we can't give out our tapes of the games. But talking with the coach about personnel or just how we played them and so forth, we can do that. But you're talking about different personnel, too. Xavier's different personnel on us. Indiana would be different personnel on us. So they get a general, just what the other team would do. But you can't exchange tapes, and I think that would be a league rule for every league in the country.
Let's talk again about the Aces. Again, as we recap, we've got footage. When you started the season, Jim, and you and the staff, I know there's certain times you put down games that you feel we should win and so forth. Did you feel you could win 16? Did you feel maybe a little lower or a little more? You know?
Well, I always go into the season, you think you're going to win them all. I mean, and that's not a realistic situation, but that's how we approach it. The best team that we faced this year was DePaul. There was no doubt in my mind, and I think how our players played, that we could beat DePaul. And I think if we would have taken better shot selection, and you're talking about one of the better teams in the country. Let's go on the other hand then. Let's go with Kentucky Wesleyan. Kentucky Wesleyan, who's still playing, who's having a great season. We played an excellent basketball schedule this year, but I think Kentucky Wesleyan was in the top 4 or 5 teams that we faced this year. And now you're talking about a different classification in college basketball. So college basketball on given nights, not every night. That's just like we cannot compete in the Big Ten every single night. We couldn't do that. But we can compete against Big Ten teams or DePaul's or something, you know, on a night here and there.
Absolutely. A couple of questions already about Xavier's success. You had to be pleased with that, as you mentioned. And what does that indicate for the league and St. Louis and the NIT?
Correct. It didn't surprise me at all about Xavier. I think they're a young team. They continue to get better. They have a kid named Tyrone Hill in the middle who improved tremendously throughout the season, and it was really coming on strong. So now they had an inside game, plus Larkin, who's really the best clutch player in the league. He keeps everyone close. So their success did not surprise me there.
Coach, do you think the Aces should have been in the NIT?
Well, I like Forrest because that's been a great reward for the kids. I think the NIT is a great tournament. Obviously, they didn't think that we were good enough to get into it. And I think that we dug our own hole on that. I think if we would have won at Detroit or won one of the other 2 games, I think our chances would have vastly improved.
Going back, when you look at Detroit, was there, you knew, and I mean, you were bearing for doom, or you had forewarning of doom when you, even after you won and played Loyola, you said, boy, that game at Detroit is a key. In retrospect, would you do anything differently? Would it have been possible to prepare for that?
Yeah, we would have busted from Chicago to Detroit. We sat in the airport all day that Sunday. But we just didn't play good basketball. That was a golden opportunity that we let slip away. And you can't let that happen. And we paid the price for it. I think that knocked us out of a postseason play.
Here's a question. When did you become a college coach? When did you decide, hey, I want to coach? Because you didn't right out of college, right?
No, I was a business major at Indiana. I went into business for right around a year. I talked to Coach Knight about coming back to further my education. He asked me to join their staff, and it kind of grew on me there. So I was 22, 23 years old.
Again, the number to call, 426-1414. Again, take any calls. Some of the players are coming. They will be also, we'll be taking some of their calls. Question, what pleased you most about the 1986-87 season? What was the most satisfying thing from your standpoint?
Well, number one, we had a group of 12 players, and then when Olaf came, 13 players that got along extremely well. That doesn't sound like much, but that's not as easy as, and I think that's a compliment to our players. And not only goes to that, we have a staff that gets along extremely well. We got wives that get along extremely well. We have and it all meshes together. I think that we knew our shortcomings. They continue to work. We had injuries, and they continue to work. They didn't feel sorry for themselves there. We lost games and lost a couple in a row. They didn't feel sorry for themselves out. Hey, they just said, hey, we made mistakes. We didn't play good enough. We got to get better. And for us to be a good basketball team, we've got to do that. And I think we had a good basketball team. Not as good as we'd like, not as good as we want next year, but we had a good basketball team.
Certainly one of the biggest surprises of the season was Big Dan Godfrey. We'll be looking at Mr. Godfrey. We'll get Coach's assessment and also what's in the future for the 6'9" Stillman Valley, Illinois native. Many more questions to come, a lot of things to talk about. Give us a call, 426-1414. The Jim Cruz Aces Special continues right after this.
Hardware stores are celebrating the grand reopening of our newly remodeled Madisonville store. March over to Keister's now. We're drumming up bargains like these. Parmi front or rear time tiller starting at $239. Celebrate spring with an Almet patio set, table, 4 chairs, and umbrella, only $169. Protect your lawn with Presto splash blocks, only $4.99 each. See more celebration values in our Madisonville grand reopening tabloid.
Keister's, the hardware store, and more.
At Sunoco, you get more than just great automotive service every day. Many of your local Sunoco dealers now have Express Smarts and are anxious to serve you. Enjoy mouth-watering fried chicken and delicious sandwiches from the deli. Step up and satisfy your craving for ice cream, or stop by on your way to work for a fresh brewed cup of coffee. All of this plus Sunoco still meets all your automotive needs with full and self-serve gasoline and complete car care. Express Smart, only at your nearby Sunoco dealer. More than just great automotive service every day.
Heister is the #1 lift truck in the world today. BGM Equipment is proud to offer the finest products and service in the tri-state. Only Heister and BGM offer Unisource parts for most makes of lift trucks, as well as Unisource accessories. For the lift you need, see one of the largest material handling equipment dealers in the Midwest, BGM Equipment, with locations in Evansville, Louisville, Paducah, Bowling Green, and Lexington.
The first and only world-class lift truck in the industry, available only from BGM Equipment.
I put my money in Union Federal Savings Bank. Union Federal is dependable. Because saving is a good thing to do. Because they pay you interest, lots of it. And then you can buy a pretty doll or a condominium.
Whatever your savings needs, from passbook to long-term certificates, look to Union Federal.
For savings, depend on us.
You're watching an Aces Special with Jim Cruz. I'm Mike Blake. Thanks for being with us. 426-1414. Join in. Give us a call right now. Coach, your good friend Bob Knight has won 180 degrees on, we've gone 180 degrees with regard to recruiting of junior college players. Do you feel you will ever go to the junior college range?
Well, we don't eliminate that, Mike. We really haven't pursued any junior college kids for 2 years. We've looked into certain situations, but we really haven't found one that we'd be comfortable with at this time. So, and you never can say never, so.
What's the recruiting priorities this spring? If you could get, what do you feel you need? What would you like to get if you can?
Well, we've got 2 scholarships left, and we've got 3 for the next 2 years. So I think that we can be very selective in what we do with kids. We might not bring any in this year because we brought in Olaf, or we might bring in 2 or just 1, Mike. I think that we're just looking for the best basketball players. It could be 6'8", it could be 6'5", it could be, 6'1". It really doesn't make any difference to us.
Jim, we're getting a lot of calls about the free throw line. One viewer says, consider the fact that no other teams, Division I teams, leave the lines open. Are you going to follow suit, or might we still see the Aces back next year?
Well, we'll have to evaluate things. This year we did it with this particular team because of 5 or 6 different reasons. Number 1, I thought we were a good free throw shooting team. Number 2, a lot of teams fast broke after made free throws and missed free throws, and we weren't a quick team getting up and down the floor, so we thought that would stop their transition, and they relied on transition. If I get Marty to listen to me a little bit better so he wouldn't foul 84 feet from the court, we need Marty to be in the game. And other guys, we'd foul. And we weren't a real good rebounding team, period. So we thought the odds, and it favored us. It saved us 15 to 20 times down the floor, and we had a team where we played a lot of games. We weren't athletic, where we could bounce back physically very quickly, so we thought we'd save some, get a little rest time in there.
Someone, as I mentioned before, certainly a tremendous asset and a very pleasant surprise for the season, Dan Godfrey. We're going to take a look at him. Did you really feel he would come as far as he did in 86, 87?
No, I really didn't, Mike. Dan has an incredible attitude of wanting to be a good basketball player, and that's the only reason why he is. Dan's 6'9", 6'9.5". He's got long arms. He can shoot the ball. He's got a good 230 pounds, 235 pounds there, but he doesn't have the stamina yet. He's still young, but his work habits and his heart for the game are incredible. We played Butler, and he didn't feel that he played very good on a Saturday afternoon, and he was in the gym at Parsons Center Saturday night working out. And I think that's atypical. That's just not an exception.
What does the acquisition of Olaf Block mean, not only to the team, but also to Dan Godfrey?
Well, I think they should really help each other. Well, Dan is really our only big guy until Olaf came. I think through competition, both players can be better. Both of them could play at the same time. Both of them could not play at the same. Both of them could be on the bench together, too. But Olaf's extremely tall. Olaf needs to work on the game of basketball. Olaf has good individual skills. Each player has different things that they've got to work on physically. Each could be different. For example, most of our team needs to work on getting stronger as a team. Some kids need to play a lot, which Olaf does. Some kids need work on individual ball handling, shooting, or passing situations.
Let's talk about the inside game. The development of Godfrey also has a tremendous effect on also maybe where Brian Hill is inserted, Chris Bamba, true? I mean, can you see them all in the lineup at the same time and maybe move Godfrey?
Well, I think that we'll be better that way next year, Mike. I think this year that we had an inconsistency, not only collectively, but individually. And if we can just get know exactly what we're doing by putting someone in or starting someone or knowing what this combination is going to do, I think that we'll be a better basketball team. Dan, I think, helped the play of almost everyone that was in the game because we weren't a good rebounding team. That made us bigger as a basketball team. Marty didn't have to guard the center, or Brian or Jeff or Larry or whoever it may be didn't have to guard a center, where if Dan is in the game, he did so. So not only from a rebounding, but from a defensive standpoint, I think he helped us.
Got a couple of calls about Marty Simmons, and also he'll be coming, Veltra Dawson, Kevin Haddock, questions about them individually. Let's take a look also, another man underneath, Chris Bamba. Really, in retrospect, again, very fortunate to have this young man who, again, maybe back in October, you didn't pencil in for as much playing time.
Chris improved. He and Dan were our two players that I think improved the most in the last year, and Chris did an incredibly good job of doing all the little things that we asked to do. I think that Chris knew better than anyone else on our team the assets of each particular player, which made him a better basketball player. And Chris is our best inside defensive player. What we need to do is improve as a team, not only is rebounding, but we have to find someone's got to develop into a better defensive forward situation out on the floor. For example, Roland Gray out on the floor hurt us this year because we didn't have a forward that could go out there and play him.
As expected, getting a lot of calls about the Hoosiers. Gut feeling, if you've seen them, I don't know if you saw them this past weekend, how far do you think they'll go in the tournament?
Well, I think this year is an interesting year, Mike, for the national championship. You got particular years that there is a best team that's coming out. In 80, when did you win it, Veltra? In 85? Villanova? 85. Georgetown was really the best team. Villanova, and that's what's interesting about the sport, but Villanova won it. In 83, I can't remember who the best team was, but like in 76, Indiana was the best team. In 78, Kentucky was the best team.
This year's a little tougher.
Years, yeah, there's not a best team. Now, someone's going to end up being named the best basketball team, and I think that'll make it interesting this year because certain teams are a little bit better. I think Indiana's a little bit better, North Carolina's a little bit better, Vegas a little bit better, but there's not a lock-in on that.
On your last show, you said Callaway. We were talking about the injury, if you remember. Certainly, he's got to stay healthy, but what about Thomas? Is he...
Oh, I think Daryl's had an excellent year for Indiana. I think for their success, Ricky Callaway and Keith Smart have to play well for him because they're quick. Then Daryl Thomas is quick, so now all of a sudden you've got a quick team. If they're struggling, Indiana becomes a slower team and I think an easier team to beat. But they've done a good job. They get in foul trouble, but I think that's developed their bench this year.
Give us a call, 426-1414. When we come back, Kevin Haddock, the freshman, and junior Veltra Dawson will join us as the Aces basketball special continues in just a moment.
True Value Hardware, it's more than a name.
The versatile Black & Decker clamp light can hold itself up, leaving your hands free to work. It's the cordless rechargeable light with a powerful beam that you can angle. In March, get the Black & Decker clamp light for just $4.99. Look for the True Value of the Month banner at participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
Whirlpool Tech Care's factory service division is located at 2350 First Avenue, and they're featuring a complete line of Whirlpool central heating and cooling products, including the new 96% efficient Whirlpool Tight Fist 2 furnace. So efficient it can be vented like a clothes dryer. Whirlpool also supplies its own factory technicians to serve your furnace and all other Whirlpool products as well. And on factory installations, you will receive a free year's service and parts. Call Whirlpool today for a free estimate at 425-1312.
Great news from Evansville Toyota Subaru. For a limited time, special factory incentives make it possible for Evansville Toyota Subaru to offer the most incredible deals ever on Subarus. These special factory incentives will save you money as much as $1,200. Evansville Toyota Subaru, the place for your best deal on a Subaru, the #1 four-wheel drive automobile in America. Hurry, drive home your brand new Subaru with exceptional savings of up to $1,200, but for a limited time only at Evansville Toyota Subaru.
Jim Cruz along with Mike Blake. We are now joined by two of the talented aces. On my immediate left, Kevin Haddock, freshman, 6'5", freshman out of Columbus, Ohio, and junior, 6'2" guard out of Highland Park, Illinois, Veltra Dawson. Fellas, welcome. First of all, Kevin, we'll start with you. A year ago, this young man was playing for the state championship for Father Worley High School out of Columbus. Quite a change in 1986 or 87. What's the one thing about your game and about basketball that you didn't know a year ago that you know now?
Well, the quality of players that you play against. In high school, you know, you would face good players maybe once out of 3 games. In college, you face good players every night out, and it's really a challenge to get yourself up and ready to go against good players.
What was the biggest adjustment, do you think? Kevin, you played, and as all the aces started at least a couple ball games throughout the year, as many as 5. What was the biggest adjustment from day one, even through the end of the season?
Probably my physical, you know, being in shape and being strong enough to go against the big, you know, because you play against big guys, 6'7", 6'8", big guys. That's probably was the biggest adjustment I had to make, was being strong enough to play against.
As we take a look at Kevin Haddock, some of the things physically, what are you going to do during the offseason? Are you going to try to put on weight? You're what, 175?
Yes, around 175.
What do you want? What does coach want you?
Around 190, 195.
Now, have you always been able to jump, young man?
Yes.
What are you going to work on? What other aspects of the game do you feel? When you go back to Columbus, or are you going to stay here during the summer?
I'm going to be here a lot during the summer. I want to work on my ball handling a lot. I need to be able to handle the ball a whole lot better, and my shooting.
Okay, with us also, Veltra Dawson, who certainly it was a tough year sitting out. Veltra, congratulations, too, on coming back. You went through some mental adjustments, didn't you, before you got into the flow? What was the toughest thing for you playing for the Aces this year?
Probably just adapting to the type of system we have. From the point guard position, you have to know everyone's position and know where everyone's going all the time. And my toughest adjustment was just learning how to really read the cuts and knowing where Marty and Scott, for instance, the shooters are all the time on the floor.
When did you guys realize that you were going to turn it around, and from a 1-3 in the MCC to a 9, possibly 9-3? You guys ended up 8-4. What was it? Was there one time where you said, "Hey, we've really got it together, and this can be an outstanding season"?
Well, we played, I think it was Xavier. We felt that we played pretty well, but we didn't win. It was up at Xavier, and we had DePaul. We played pretty well against DePaul, pretty hard, but not smart. And after that, we felt, as a team, we felt pretty good, and things started to turn around, and then everything just came together.
Okay, Coach, Jim, what's the thing about when you think of these two guys? I know in terms of the progress, it's not easy learning the system. What, as you look and reflect on their play, what pleased you most in 1986-87?
Well, I think it goes back to the whole team, not only these two, Mike, is just their work habits. And I think that they develop, freshmen always have to develop better work habits because, as Kevin mentioned, the competition is just that much stiffer in college. Not only each game do they have to compete, but just in practice they're competing against good players each particular night. These two guys really have to develop into better defensive players for us. These two are two of our quickest players on the team, and we've got to be a better defensive team next year to be successful. And both of them have the capabilities of doing it.
Got a lot of calls about the three-point shot. Should it be moved? Some people said in high school.
Well, don't ask these two guys. They're not going to shoot it.
They are, huh? Should it be moved back? And also for high school, should the high school adjust, do you think? Is it here to stay?
Oh, it was interesting for us, Mike. It's a big controversial thing. It probably helped us more than hurt us this year, I think. To move it back, I don't know if that would help the game. I think that you might create more bad shooting situations where right now you take a three-pointer, and if you can shoot it, I mean, it's not a bad shot at all, but you move that out another foot or so, and there are very few players that can shoot that. I don't like to see at the end of the game where you should throw a half-court shot in and you get rewarded. It's a luck shot no matter who shoots it, and it's a three-pointer and you get beat by 1 point. I don't like that situation.
These two guys, you must have seen Darren Fitzgerald in your dreams and let's say nightmares. It's tough, isn't it? It alters your defensive scheme, does it not?
Yes, it does. You have to concentrate on him a lot, and you have to play him so far out than you would just somebody else because he's such a good shooter.
Let's take a look at some footage of Veltra Dawson. Veltra, we have gotten a couple calls pertaining to a young guy that you knew at Villanova, Gary McLean, who's on the cover of Sports Illustrated in a story that unfortunately is not the most sensational or story that you would be proud of. The young man came forward and said that he was, quote, on drugs. He was wired during the NCAA tournament in 1985. What about it? What was your reaction to the story in the current issue of Sports Illustrated?
Well, my personal reaction is that, I love Gary McLean very much, and, Gary and I were tight. And it was just a shame that, something
Explain
like
what tight means to Mike Veltra. Does that mean you're a good friend with him?
Right. It means that, yeah, I'm a good friend. Not like tight cuts. It's just, and I was a good friend with Gary. And it's just, like I said before, it's just a shame that happened to him. And I just really hope that he recovers and, everything will turn out all right for Gary McLean.
A lot of people have said, you know, there was comments that, were you aware of that problem during the Final Four?
I don't think anyone was aware of it. You know, I think it's just something that, you know, everyone was so excited and everything, and, you know, by someone acting different or, you know, more excited than someone else, no one really paid attention to it because it was just, you know, such a big thing for us. And, you know, I'm just really sorry to, you know, hear that, but I know Gary will, you know, get well and, you know, hopefully good things will happen for him.
A lot of the coaches, Jim, who are concerned about the integrity of the game think it's not just ironic that the timing of this came out during the college basketball's premier event, the NCAA tournament.
Oh, I don't think that's ironic at all. Obviously, the young man was paid by Sports Illustrated to do the situation, but I think someone the other night I heard made some good observation. They're going to have how much impact this is going to have on college basketball or how much impact on Villanova or Coach Massimino, and he said none. And I absolutely agree with that. I don't think that anyone's going to look in any negative fashion whatsoever toward Coach Massimino or Villanova's basketball program or college basketball. This is a kid that comes forth. The timing was put forth because of a financial situation, but that, you know, that's an isolated case, and you can find isolated cases throughout college basketball, throughout the medical profession. Anybody. So I don't think it has much impact.
A lot of people want to know, who do you two pick for the NCAA? Who's going to win it all a couple Mondays from now?
It's hard to say, but I would give North Carolina the edge.
You want the Tar Heels. How about you, Veltra?
I really like North Carolina, but I think, you know, Indiana has a shot also. I think, you know, with the way they're playing and, you know, just like what Coach Cruz said, I think they really got a shot. Take it.
Well, there are a lot of people, I'm sure, that will agree, but a lot who don't. You know, you guys are in the Hoosier State. A lot of people want Indiana and other teams. We'll come back with Veltra Dawson, Kevin Haddock, and Coach Jim Cruz. And as you know, there were a lot of exciting finishes. We'll feature the fantastic finishes of 1986-87 as our special continues in just a moment. Simmons back out to Bamba. Dawson's going to put it up. And Veltra Dawson becoming a force with his 8-point, again substituting tonight for the injured.
True Value hardware stores are opening up some big values for you with their Hardware Week circular. Like this powerful Master Mechanic 7 1/4-inch circular saw for just $37.99. You'll have the right fastener for almost any project with the 1,800-piece nail center, only $5.99. Light up a backyard with this 300-watt quartz floodlight, just $10.44. And keep the ever-ready Commander fluorescent lantern handy. It's only $8.99 at participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
To look at little Isaac today, it's hard to imagine how little Isaac once was. At birth, he weighed less than his teddy bear. No matter what their size or special medical needs, at St. Mary's, every birth is a small wonder. Some are just a little smaller than others. St. Mary's Medical Center. When you need some special care, we'll be there.
Again, a lot of the questions that we are getting are repetitive from earlier shows. We'll repeat as many as possible. One that comes up, of course, is officiating. We'll start with Coach Cruz. Jim, the MCC officiating, how would you grade it compared to last year, let's say?
Well, I don't know.
Be nice now.
Oh, I haven't ever criticized the officials publicly. I might do my assistant coaches. But overall, I think they're getting a little bit better. They just, they have some disadvantage. I think all officials, not just MCC officials, because the coaches do have an advantage. We watch tape and we watch it from 3 different angles. We watch it first from a coach's standpoint. What things that could we change throughout the course of the game or preparing for the game and strategically. Number 2, from a player standpoint, how they can improve individually and collectively as a team. And 3rd, we see it from an official standpoint. What was good calls, what were bad calls. And we watch those tapes over and over and over. And obviously that's a big advantage, just understanding the game and seeing the game and seeing how it develops.
Veltra or Kevin, as players, what's the biggest gripe you have about officiating? Would you, Veltra, how about you? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I just let Coach Cruz take care of that. Yeah,
Smart answer.
I definitely have no.
That's one thing that we do really work on, Mike, is we just tell them, hey, you just worry about the playing, you let the coaches or myself deal with the officials. And I've just kind of, if you notice it, I didn't even pay much attention to the officials this year. Maybe a little bit more last year, but you're not going to change anything. So we just kind of forgot about them.
What are in the plans? What will you two do? And then I want to know what people want to know. What will you have these guys do in the off season, beginning right now? What are you going to do, between now and June?
Well, we're playing together. Everybody's playing together every day, and we're lifting weights every other day.
You know, Kevin basically described that's what we're doing, and just trying to get better each and every day.
You know, we've got a situation, Mike, where we've got to become physically much better, stronger. Kevin's got to put on 15 pounds and become stronger. And maybe it won't be 15 pounds, but he's got to be a much stronger basketball player. And that goes right down the line.
Jeff Mourning, the whole Larry Brand.
I mean, Veltra might be, he and Troy are probably the smallest guys, but they've got to become much stronger also. And it's just too many times where we're just physically, and I think that might be some of the problems that we had this year, where we wore out, where we had 3 games in a week because of physical. We weren't strong enough, and obviously on the boards.
Evansville was certainly more successful this year than last year on the road, but still a long way from what you want it to be. What does it take to win on the road consistently, do you feel?
Well, I think just good basketball. I don't think that, I think players, no matter what level or where you are, feel more comfortable at home just because the surroundings are. You're sleeping in the same bed that you always sleep in the night before. You're eating where you've always eaten, the surroundings, the people, and then all of a sudden you go to wherever, whatever city it may be, and everything, the only people that you really know are the 13 to 18 people on the travel party. So that's kind of different, but it comes down to good basketball. We won some games on the road this year, and that's because we outplayed them. We got beat on the road because they outplayed us. And to develop a good basketball team, you got to consistently win on the road. It can't be 1 out of 3 or 3 out of 7 or anything like that.
Assuming you avoid the injury bug, what excites you about next year? What is going to be better about the Aces, do you feel, in 1987, 88?
We have everybody back. You know, we know each other. We know that's what we're trying to do now, is learn what each other can do. And basically, everybody's back. We just want to blend together better than we did this year.
I'm just excited. It's my last year along with Marty and Curtis, and you know, I feel with the players coming back that it's going to be you know, a good final year for me. So I'm just excited.
Very good. Incidentally, Marty Simmons will be with us in just a moment. Again, give these guys a call. They'll be with us for just a couple more minutes. Kevin Haddock, also Veltra Dawson. Jim, hold on, a couple more. They're again repetitive. Is there a chance you'll play in the Hoosier Classic? You have the Hoosier Indiana Classic, either one. A lot of people want to know this 4th question about Indiana.
We would like to, Mike. First of all, they're scheduled 4, 5, 6 years in advance, and we're not scheduled that far in advance. Number 2 is we need to get 14 home games per season, and if you're giving away 2 road games and not getting any games in return, it's tough, and that's not just the Indiana, that's any tournament. So we've got to be very delicate in how we do that and set that up, but that's a tournament that we'd like to play in future years.
Okay, one of the things about this year, the slogan was, Aces basketball is fun again. It was, and it was exciting. There were some literally fantastic finishes. Dean Webster put together a look at some of the best finishes of the previous year. Let's take a look.
Hafner down the baseline.
The first close game of the season was against Indiana State. The Aces trailed nearly the entire game, taking control with about 7 minutes to go in the game. Marty Simmons scored 11 of the last 16 Aces points, and the final stood Aces 63, Indiana State 60, and the Aces were undefeated through 3 games. The very next game was against an old rival, Kentucky Wesleyan, and despite being a Division II team, proved capable early on that they had enough firepower to give the Aces a lot of trouble. But in the end, it was a Marty Simmons tip-in that put the Aces in front, but the win was costly. Simmons suffers a broken right wrist early in the game when he is shoved down from behind. The next 13 games, the Aces struggled. They were 4-9 during that stretch, but then finally, with all players healthy, the Aces provided us with some more fantastic finishes. The winning streak of 8 games started with the Loyola Ramblers. Simmons led the way, 26 points and 8 rebounds, and he hit 2 free throws with 5 seconds to go to give the Aces a 4-point lead.
Carter from way out. Holy cow, what a finish.
The Aces, by virtue of the 72-71 victory, evened their season record at 9-9 and stood at 2-3 in the conference. The St. Louis game in the stadium the end of January would be the best game of the season yet. It was also the first overtime game of the season. The biggest lead in the game was 4 points, and that happened only one time midway through the second half by the Aces. There were 3 dramatic shots in this game. Monroe Douglas, with 14 seconds left, hit a 3-pointer that put the Billikens up 71-70. With 7 seconds to go in the game, Jim Roeder missed the second of a 1-and-1 that set up the Aces for the final shot, and it was Marty Simmons that took it at the buzzer.
Put it up. Simmons. Yes! What a shot!
We're going to overtime. Then, in overtime, with the game tied at 76.
They better do something in a hurry. Hafner's going to jack it up. Fakes up. In!
The Aces were riding a 4-game winning streak when they rode into Tulsa to take on Oral Roberts in the Mabee Center. But there were no maybes at the end of this game. It belonged to the Aces, but not without another clutch shot by Scott Hafner.
Workman. And a rebound by Jackson. 15 seconds as they bring it across. There you see the time. Hafner. Yes!
Three-pointer.
Three-pointer. Simmons gets it back. The Aces are hanging on. They're going to win one here at the Mabee Center.
The Aces' final regular season home game was when they played Xavier. It was the second overtime game of the season. But it didn't look good for the Aces. With just over 5.5 minutes to play in the game, they trailed by 10 points, 69-59. But Marty Simmons and Scott Hafner brought the Aces back with a barrage of three-pointers. Hafner drawing the final blow in regulation with 6 seconds to go to tie the game. Then in overtime, the Aces held for the last shot. And with 3 seconds left, Simmons was fouled. He hit both shots, and the Aces had won their 7th straight game, 95-93 in overtime.
Yes, indeed. And as we saw that great finish, a tremendous ending to the season at Roberts Stadium. Fellas, a quick comment about the fans. Good support in 1986-87.
Yeah, they really helped us a lot. You know, we might have been down a couple points in the game, and if we didn't get ourselves up, it seemed like the fans really helped us get up a lot of time.
Veltra, you, of course, played with some great crowds with Villanova and so forth. You had to be, compared to last year, marked improvement with the fan support this year, was it not?
A very good improvement, and hopefully next year they'll be even that much better. So, very good.
One last thing for you two, before Marty comes out, the people want to know, what do you think about the players' haircuts? Are you gonna keep them short next year?
I don't know. I don't know.
We might try to go bald, you know.
Very good. Jim, a question here. Will you be playing KWC, Kentucky Wesleyan, next year? If so, where?
No, we're not going to play them anymore, Mike. It's unfortunate, but how the NCAA is set up, playing any Division II team hurts you for conference play, or for tournament play, NCAA tournament play, and we can't afford to do that. And some teams, for example, St. Louis, that's why they weren't in the NCAA. They won 24 games, but they don't count them as 24 because they played, I think, 3 Division II or 3 teams, and so that's just automatically cut out. 21 wins, plus they subtract points from the computer ranking. So we just can't afford to do that, unfortunately.
We're coming back with head coach Jim Cruz. The Mule will join us, Marty Simmons. My thanks to Kevin Haddock and Veltra Dawson. Our special continues right after this. Give us a call, 426-1414.
The Mazda March is on at Kenny Kent with savings on the full line of new generation Mazdas. Imagine yourself in the high-velocity RX-7 for $275 a month. The world-class 626, family room, power and poise for $190 a month. For the road car of small cars, discover the 323 for only $115 a month. And the #1 rated pickup in customer satisfaction is the B2000 for $129 a month. The Mazda March means savings, and Kenny Kent is the place to buy. Downtown 2nd and Vine, north at Diamond and Heidelberg.
If there's something missing from your home workshop, check out the latest basics from True Value hardware stores. This Master Mechanic self-igniting torch with propane is only $21.99. The Skill cordless screwdriver recharges in its own base, and it's just $19.99. Locate hidden wall studs with a Zircon stud sensor, only $13.99. And the rugged Tote-More tote tray from Plano offers lots of storage room. It's only $4.99 at participating True Value hardware stores.
Mike Blake along with head coach Jim Cruz, and we are now joined by the Aces captain, Lawrenceville, Illinois native Marty Simmons. Mart, welcome and congratulations on a fine year. What a year for you, not only physically but psychologically. As you look back, and now that you can assess it, give us an overall viewpoint of the season from your standpoint.
Well, first of all, going into the season, you know, I was really excited. You know, after laying off last year, you know, I was ready to play. In preseason practices, I hyperextended my elbow. That put me out for a little while, and then finally that healed up, and then we got into the season, and I unfortunately broke my wrist, and I was very fortunate that Coach Cruz knew the doctors in Indianapolis, Steve Dayton knew the doctors in Indianapolis, and they put the screw in, and remarkably, I only missed 5 games.
Incredibly, yeah.
I didn't really play up to the way I think I could play, but you know, I was just glad to be back.
It was good enough for Newcomer of the Year honors in the MCC. I'm sure, Coach, you were very proud of the effort that this guy provided. What did he mean to this team, and why? I know, you know, even when, you know, I'm sure people, and you may have even second-guessed yourself, you brought him back and you said, hey, I got to have this guy in the lineup. What did he mean to you and to the Aces of this year?
Well, I don't think that we made any secret out of it, Mike, that whatever Marty was doing, the team followed. The other 11, 12 guys followed the team. If Marty was enthusiastic, they were all enthusiastic. Marty works hard, they all work hard. And we need Marty to be a leader, and I think he had a good year being a leader. But Marty has the capabilities of he understands the system, he knows what we want just on the floor, and so he can show people how to work and get good results also. But also he has to communicate, which I think that he improved and did a good job of knowing what his knowledge and transmitting that to the players. Now, I got a question for Marty since Mike mentioned the nickname Mule. Now, is that because you move like a mule or your mentality of being stubborn like a mule? Which is that, Marty? Both, huh? Yeah, that's what I figured.
It was a very good handle from Lawrenceville, right? He played hard like a mule, and was as he did this year. Let me ask you this: a viewer earlier, Jim, wanted to know, hey, would you ever move Simmons to guard?
Well, we did sometimes, Mike, this particular season. In fact, the very last game, Marty brought the ball up a lot, and we started him out on the floor and brought him inside and outside. And I think with our style of play, Marty utilizes his skills, and it's a very compatible relationship with how Marty plays, because Marty can score inside, he can get fouled, he can drive the ball, and he can shoot outside. I think that at times, all of us, including Marty, are too much. They can shoot the ball, but then we start relying on our outside shot, and your outside shot has to complement your inside game, no matter whose system of play it is, to be effective.
As you look at what you're going to do in the offseason, what's paramount in your mind? Hey, I've got to work on this, and so does the team, between now and, say, even summertime.
Well, there's not really one thing that I think I have to work on more than the other. Coach probably says defense, which I need to work on that, but I like to rehabilitate my hand, my wrist, and get it back to 100%, but just everything. We need to work on everything. You know, a lot of people say we had a good year, but we set goals at the beginning of the year to win 20 games, to win the conference championship and get in the NCAA. Well, we just accomplished like 1/6 since we were co-champs, so our goals will be even set higher next year.
As someone else in addition to Marty Simmons, who very deservedly received all-conference recognition, Scott Hafner. We're going to take a look at Scott. What did he mean from your standpoint? You know, a lot of pressure was on you, on Veltra as two of the incoming transfers. What did your buddy from Illinois mean in Noblesville, Indiana? What did he mean to the Aces?
Well, he meant, you know, very much. He hit a lot of clutch shots for us, but Scott's the type of kid where, you know, basketball's #1 for him, and when he came here and I was here, you know, I was just elated. And, you know, he can handle the ball. He can do so many different things to help our team besides shoot the basketball, and I just think, you know, he's a great player.
Jim, how about you? We talked about it on a previous show that it was obvious that he was really a tremendous addition, maybe even a steal from Illinois, who probably wish they could have had him in the NCAA this year. What's on the horizon for him? A fine season, but I know you think it can be much better.
Oh, I think Scott can have a much better season. I think Scott came out in December and had a much better start to his career at Evansville than I even would imagine, because he was a very, very effective defensive player. We asked him to handle the ball. We asked him to score. Then he got hurt, and I think that really bothered Scott in the fashion that he couldn't be as effective defensively, and then he started relying on the three-point shot as the only part of his game, and just relying on shooting, where Scott's, if the last time I checked, I think he got second in the nation in foul shooting. Well, he needs to get to the foul line more. He's got to use that as a bigger weapon for him, driving the basketball, posting up, scoring inside, stealing the basketball, rebounding, more where the action is, where a lot of times at the end, and I think the ankle had something to do with it, he was pushed out on the fringe, and he had some success with the three-point, but it was kind of a bait, and it kept getting him more out there than he needed to be.
A couple of questions here for you. Your playing weight, what is your playing weight? And is it different from the book? Well, what did you play at this year? You trimmed down.
I played at 225. That's what Coach Cruz asked me to play at. You know, I felt comfortable at that weight this year, and you know, this summer we'll lift weights, and I'll have to be at that weight again next year.
What was the heaviest that you've been since you've been in Evansville? Even last year, did you ever get up to 235?
Yeah, I was up to 235 in the summer.
Now,
Marty's married now, so that helps his diet.
Yes.
You know how that is now,
Speaking
Mike.
of married, he is not overweight, but his lovely wife is, and for good reason. When's that baby due?
It's due in about a month. I think April 14th.
You got a name picked out? Women want to know these things.
No, she probably does, but I haven't.
Ange? No, not yet. Okay, well, we'll make that announcement in a month or so. Let's, going ahead again with the Aces with regard, what do you feel, Marty, as you look ahead? What's one thing down the road when the season starts? What do you hope you will have already accomplished October 15th between now and then?
Well, as Coach Cruz said earlier, our team needs to be much stronger. That includes myself, and we're really going to work hard on that. But then playing together all summer and lifting together, we're going to develop friendships and just knowing how each other plays on the court. And when October 15th comes, we'll have maybe the little things out of the way, and then we can go right into practice, and Coach can just start teaching right there.
Very good. Jim, anything to add to that?
Well, I think that we had a lot of new faces this year, Mike, and I think the success that our team had is certainly a credit to the players because all of a sudden, for example, Kevin Haddock, October 15th, he is out for the month. He did not get hurt October 15th. He got hurt like October 8th, okay, before even practice began. Then all of a sudden, Marty is out for 2 or 3 weeks in the preseason. Then all of a sudden, Marty's hurt again in December. So that getting to know each other was always stopped. It never started October 15th because we didn't have our whole team, and then we were going all right, and then it stopped again, and then it stopped, and then Scott got hurt, and then it stopped again. So it's a very important period now from now until October 15th for us to develop. We can't, people think you have everyone back, that you're going to start at 16 wins, and your first win's 17, your next win's 8. Hey, you got to work to get the first 16 to do better than you did last year, and if we don't become much better, we'll never reach that particular goal. So we could, you know, it'll be an important development period for us.
A couple of callers say, without the injuries, do you feel you would have had 20 wins?
I think we've been darn close, Mike. I think that some of them got away from us. If Marty was in there on one or two of them, if Marty wasn't hurt, I think that we would have.
Very good. We're coming back with head coach Jim Cruz and Marty Simmons. The Aces special continues. We'll take a look at some more of the Aces right after this.
They got to get it. Hafner's got to put it up. Simmons. Yes! What a shot! We're going to overtime.
At Sunoco, you get more than just great automotive service every day. Many of your local Sunoco dealers now have Express Smarts and are anxious to serve you. Enjoy mouth-watering fried chicken and delicious sandwiches from the deli. Step up and satisfy your craving for ice cream, or stop by on your way to work for a fresh brewed cup of coffee. All of this plus Sunoco still meets all your automotive needs with full and self-serve gasoline and complete car care. Express Smart, only at your nearby Sunoco dealer. More than just great automotive service every day.
Kite Home Center celebrating 30 years of helping you help yourself with a fabulous anniversary sale. Get a 5-gallon bucket of driveway sealer for $6.83. Exterior shutters as low as $14.30 a pair. Incredible savings on womanized lumber plus quality fences like cedar basket weave and townhouse picket. Register to win a weekend getaway for 2 at the New Harmony Inn, plus a special Pearl Anniversary prize of a strand of genuine pearls. Don't miss the 30th anniversary savings celebration at Kite Home Center.
Okay, we're back. More questions for Coach Jim Cruz and the captain, Marty Simmons. What are the, we've answered this before in previous shows, but again, what are the responsibilities that you have for the assistant coaches? And then we'll ask Marty what the assistant coaches mean to him and the players. But what do you expect of them now, even though the season's in the off-season?
Well, first of all, we just started a weight program Monday, and Chris Fisher, one of the assistant football coaches, has developed that and really worked closely with Steve Dayton, and our players are doing that 3 times a week. So our coaches, Will and Dave, we're recruiting and getting names, not only for this year, potentially, but future years. I mean, you're getting a file of juniors and sophomores and so forth. So that's a constant and a continuing thing throughout the year. Woody and Steve, they're with the players more. They see them with the weight training. They're, you know, any problems that come up, administrative things, scheduling, camp, you name it, we've got it going, and those guys are taking care of it. So they just don't have a one-dimensional job with us, Mike.
What do they mean to you as a player, Marty?
Well, very much. You know, they're there if you want to come in for individual work. They're there. You know, their time schedule. You know, I know they have wives and kids at home, but they come out and, you know, they come in put in that little extra time with you, whether it's offensively or defensively. And then not only that, they make sure that you're doing well in class, and if you need any help, then they offer that help to you. So they're very, very important to our program.
Marty will be in an interesting situation, Mike. Marty, this will be his 4th year, and he'll be graduating this May, and then next year he'll be playing college basketball as a graduate student. And very few people do that. I think most people, once they're injured or redshirted or whatever the case may be, if they're going 5 years, they split it up and try to get a degree, undergraduate degree in 5 years, where he's done the work in exactly the exact amount in 4 years, and now he's going to be furthering his education next year as a graduate student.
Your degrees will be in what, Marty?
I'm a marketing major.
Very good. Someone who, again, made quite a change this year. It was just not an ordinary year for Curtis Jackson. We've got a little footage of Curtis. In hindsight, Jim, how do you assess his situation, and what's the future for Curtis Jackson as an ace?
Well, I think it's the same as everyone's, Mike. I think that as you can see this year, we had a lot of players that started, a lot of players that played. We had all our players contribute in winning situations when the game was on the line. Curtis is in the same situation. Curtis, we felt, is a very good scorer. Curtis needs to work on his defense. He needs to work on his ball handling. And I think that he gave us some good scoring situations this year. But on the other hand, I think that the year before he scored a little bit better. And I think that has to come back what Kevin and Veltra went back to, and Marty alluded to also, is getting to know each other and get to know how each other are going to score, how each other's going to get open. And I think sometimes we struggle with that, because I think our 3 best scorers are Scott, Marty, and Curtis.
Here's a question as we watch Curtis. Marty, somebody says, do you have any aspirations of playing after college? Any chance of playing some pro ball in any way?
Well, you know, that's been a goal of mine since I was a little kid. You know, I'd love to play professional basketball, but I also understand that I've got a lot of work to do in the next year to even have a chance of getting drafted. But yes, I do have aspirations.
Very good. Something, Jim, is there any chance of reestablishing the holiday tournament? Once a very popular thing. Is that possible?
Well, in the immediate future, this year, next year, or the following year, probably not. Mike, putting together a good tournament for good teams to get is a very, very difficult proposition. To get good teams that people recognize for the fans to come out is tough. It's hard to explain. In fact, I think Lamar came here one year to Evansville. Lamar has an excellent basketball program and excellent teams. And I think that if you watch, in fact, our schedule is interesting. Austin Peay, for example, that's not a household name, just like Evansville, but they certainly did well in the NCAA. Xavier did well in the NCAA. Southwest Missouri, who we played a year ago, did very well. You got a lot of teams that aren't Notre Dame or North Carolina or Indiana or Georgetown that are just on the TV all the time, that have a lot of good players. I'm not saying they're as good as these other guys, but they're darn good basketball players, and that's a reason it's tough to put a tournament together.
Something that was interesting, you made comments before about, and people now believe you, Southwest Missouri and Austin Peay. Good ball clubs, good athletes, huh?
Definitely. I wasn't able to play against Austin Peay, but I thought our team probably should have won that game.
Yes.
They played very well. They had come off a big loss, I think, against Auburn. And, you know, I know our guys feel the same way, that we should have won the game. And that's what makes it so tough, sitting at home and watching the NCAA tournament, is how teams like Xavier and Austin Peay are having this success when we feel that we were just a little bit, maybe a step away from being there ourselves.
Coach, I accept the players' uniforms, but can you get ones that fit the players?
I agree. We're going to work on that.
Tighten up.
I agree with that.
Okay, very good. We're going to come back with Marty Simmons and head coach Jim Cruz in just one moment. Stay with us.
True Value hardware stores are opening up some big values for you with their Hardware Week circular. Choose a faux rake, dirt shovel, or garden hoe for just $3.49 each. A pack of 2 GE fluorescent tubes is only $2.29, less a $1 mail-in rebate. Choose a 50-pack of 13-gallon or a 40-pack of 26-gallon True Value trash bags for just $2.49 each. And get a 9-ounce can of WD-40 lubricant for only $1.29 at participating True Value hardware stores.
It's time for Indiana education to measure up, to account for performance, to measure results, to reward achievement. Help Indiana move ahead. Support the Governor's A+ program for schools that measure up. We can win the race for the future.
Heister is the #1 lift truck in the world today. BGM Equipment is proud to offer the finest products and service in the tri-state. Only Heister and BGM offer Unisource parts for most makes of lift trucks, as well as Unisource accessories. For the lift you need, see one of the largest material handling equipment dealers in the Midwest, BGM Equipment, with locations in Evansville, Louisville, Paducah, Bowling Green, and Lexington.
The first and only world-class lift truck in the industry, available only from BGM Equipment.
Final segment of our Aces special with head coach Jim Crews. We're also joined now live by Marty Simmons, the captain. Questions coming in. What new teams on the schedule, Jim? Are you allowed to say right now? And will there be any new teams?
Off the top of my head, we're going to start playing Southern Illinois next year. In fact, we play them twice over there, and then here also.
Marquette.
We play Marquette again, so we play Bradley again. We play DePaul
and
again.
Marquette comes here.
Marquette's here next year.
Okay.
Most of the teams are basically the same because you always have a 2- or 4-year contract with them.
A lot of people want to know, this young man is admired very much by young, aspiring basketball players. You come in contact with a lot of kids that someday dream of playing for the Aces or playing ball. What do you, when do you come in contact with them, and what advice do you have for them?
Well, Coach has set it up where people call in, or maybe he calls them, and 2 or 3 of the guys go out to grade schools or churches or whatever it may be, and we just kind of tell them, you know, what we've done to get where we're at and what it takes to be a student athlete. And as far as being a good basketball player, I don't think, you know, at a young age, I think the best thing you can do is just play basketball as much as you can. But then as you're growing up, you've also got to understand that academics and studies go along with that. You know, I'm very proud of the way I've came along, and now that I'll be graduating this year, that way, if the basketball career is not there for me, I'll have something to fall back on.
You've been very candid, and you've made statements long before this, but as you look back, anything you would have done differently in your career, which has been a very outstanding career, going back to high school on through college?
Well, you know, I've thought about, you know, going into my last year here at Evansville, and I don't mean to make Coach Crews feel real good, but I just wish I had the opportunity to play for Coach for 4 years. I look now, and I've only got 1 year left, so I'll just go out and work as hard as I can and try to enjoy that.
Well, we're glad you got 1 year to go, Mart. What advice, Coach, this is a good one, would you give to a 6'8", 13-year-old, 8th grade student interested in basketball?
Just like Marty said, just play a lot of basketball, worry about being a 13-year-old and not a 18 or 20-year-old.
Do you agree that the winner of the tournament, the MCC tournament, should go to the NCAA, or do you think the winner of the league?
I think the winners of the league should. I think that all the conference tournaments throw both tournaments out of whack, NCAA or NIT. There's teams that have played, one of the 64 teams in the NCAA that should not have been in the NCAA or NIT. I think one way that they could get around it, if they still want to make money with the tournaments, for example, the ACC or the SAC that get great big crowds and make a lot of money off it, is as soon as the regular season's over, the NCAA comes in and says, okay, you guys get 5 teams or 4 teams or 3, whatever it may be for each particular league. It might be 5 for the ACC this year, and it might be 3 for the SAC or 2 for the MCC or just 1, whatever it may be. So now if a North Carolina State, for example, wins the ACC tournament like they did this year, then the ACC says, okay, you got 5, so maybe Virginia's not going to be there, or maybe Duke's not going to be there. Now they got to pay the price of having that tournament, because I think the true champion is over that period of time, and you're talking about a 3-day tournament, and it throws, I think, throws the whole tournament, both tournaments, out of whack.
Guys, we've got just a few seconds left. If you had one wish for the upcoming season, and now that this season's over, what would it be? If you could, one final thought.
Well, stay injury-free, but I'd also like to win about 25 games and get in the NCAA next year.
Jim?
Well, our whole program, what we're trying to set up, Mike, is to win championships, and we got a small part of that this year, but we want bigger ones for the future, and we've got a good group, and we're just going to try to do the best we can. You just don't know about injuries and how schedules and so forth go, so we'll just see where we are next year.
Also, there'll be a chance for a lot of the young people. The camps coming up, you'll have camps this summer, right?
Yeah, all through June, Mike, and the last week of July, and that's for 3rd graders through seniors to be, and they can call the basketball office to get information about those camps.
Fellas, I thank you, and I know on behalf of the community that's watching, congratulations on an outstanding year. Marty,
thanks,
get healthy, stay healthy, outstanding season. Good luck with the baby there, Papa-to-be. Jim, congratulations. We'll see you during the summer. That's our Aces basketball special. Thanks for calling, folks. Again, lots of calls. We hope we answer them. We'll get a chance to answer them in the future. For the Aces, this is Mike Lake. Thanks for watching. A very pleasant good night.
Tonight's University of Evansville basketball with Coach Jim Cruz was brought to you in part by your friendly True Value hardware store. Now stay tuned for MASH, followed by Newswatch at 10.